Why, hello. Welcome back to Fugitive Games, playing the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, which is just a subset of the Chronicles. Yeah. I streamed yesterday. I feel like, most of it's fresh enough in my mind, I can just jump right in and, let's see where we're at. Bzow! Ah, still at the save screen. So I'm about to begin the trial about Mr. Koseki Natsume. I think his name is Natsume Koseki, and he is a Japanese man who I regrettably started voicing as John Cleese, but he's too fun to stop. The voice is too fun to stop, so we're stuck with it. So, hope everyone likes it. Oh gosh, I'm afraid that I won't remember Baron von Zieks' voice correctly. We'll see. 20th of February. Yeah, lots happening in just a few days for Ryunosuke, man. Well, I never expected this. Would have thought we'd be back here again so soon. We are on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh. When you put it like that, you are quite right. Good morning, says... Oh, who is this? Oh, good morning! Ah, Mr. Natsume. Good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Yeah, like with an expression like that, John Cleese fits. At least for me, I'm sorry. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble, I say as I begin trembling. I'm a liar. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. You liar? I can't do this. I can't take it. Although... Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, where did I? Do you know why that might be, Mrs. Sato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zieks? Is that right, Mr. Sato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeek's return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. What a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. What we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers.
Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us.
Oh dear. I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it.
Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. I cannot read today. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago.
Yes, I agree.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, it's you.
Me? Well, I suppose that's true.
Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper.
Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that.
Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive!
Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end. And I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. That's odd phrasing. Like, if it were, you're not alone with us here, I feel like that would be more natural to say. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side.
Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant Ms. Mikotoba Esquires. Or Esquires, I don't know if it would be emphasized in such a manner. I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once.
Alright then, Mr. Natsume. Chikanda. Ikimashou.
Yes.
Just grin and bear it, man. This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight.
Let's go.
That typing can get a little out of hand.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord.
Is that how he sounded? The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago, a mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Damn, man. He's already going right for us in our country. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Sato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. He's not very good at looking at it where he's pouring. His eyes don't track very well. Very true. And a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate, violent end. I watched a compilation of some ProZD clips of his playthroughs of Ace Attorney games the other day, and I became enamored with how whenever it does that exclamation point, it just goes. Anyway,
Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone.
Hey, it's Bruce. Wasn't it Bruce? Goodman or something? I forgot. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear.
Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Let's see if I can remember what I just did for all those guys.
Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Jeez! Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
That bow. Well, it's a little faster this time, I think. I like it when it's that speed. Unless I'm crazy and it's the same speed as before. Maybe my perception is slower.
Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber.
That's your shtick, huh? You're just gonna say that every time? Alright.
Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector? Victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Holly Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now. and she's been comatose ever since.
What? So they don't even know who she is for sure?
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector.
I need to find my groove for him. I feel like I'm a little off.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared and she's currently been treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. There's the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please.
She's been found a knife in her back. It's currently in hospital. Yes, okay. Same old stuff that he said already.
What of the weapon that was used? So, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back.
Ouch. That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scraggy-looking Soseki-san, I suppose.
A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
Alright, we just got 2 pieces of evidence.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
Before I read that, I want to check the court record and take inventory of what we got. This map is not rotatable. This receipt says, your books, the 17th of February, Mr. Natsume, 2 shillings, tender receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gaboriau, Canterbury yearnings, case file, young woman rendered unconscious, stab wound to back, olive green, female, stout build, early 20s, pavement of Briar Road, east side, Rolly bait? Is that of significance? Ooh, this is probably where some good stuff is. Remains unconscious. Name is gleaned from personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from a single stab wound from the large knife. Okay, another single stab wound. No other signs of injury were observed. Assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Alright. And this knife. Let us... I guess none of this is searchable. Well, except the main blade of it. Is it just me or did it cut off a bit? Oh, how strange. I can only, like... Okay, this tip is a unique note, it looks like. Aha! Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Mr. Sato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. Okay. We've just noticed that the tip is missing, that's all. I think that's all there is to this knife. Alright.
From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself.
Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim?
Right, I couldn't say. Apart from visiting the second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Hi! If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Objection!
Oh, I'm not that far off of him. You know, he's throwing bottles at... I do like this escalation. He's doing new things, and I appreciate that.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here.
What?
Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student.
Yes, sir. This guy's like our gumshoe a little bit today. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred. There was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good. There was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him.
Old books, you say?
Yeah, that's true. He's also way more well-fed than Gumshoe.
Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime taken immediately after the incident.
What a picture. What am I looking at here?
Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I'll take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector.
I'll probably need to look at that more closely.
You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat.
What the hell, dude? Y'all, you need to chill.
Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mr. Sato?
Do go on.
Hey, the judge is good. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? I need to get better at pronouncing Naruhodo. Naruhodo, ne. Ugh. Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened.
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I can make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me, back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat?
Oh, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next?
The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back.
There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there's nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. It seems this Croc's examination could prove to be pivotal, Counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. I like how they look like swords, but it's stained glass. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Unusually light fog. A light fog, you say?
Well, light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though.
That's light, is it?
Round these parts, yes. Not something I expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course.
I've read that London is famous for its fog. There's a clothing brand and everything. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance.
How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize as I expect you can appreciate.
I see.
This time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Sato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. Like that PSA that doesn't exist yet.
However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Visibility reasonably good. No one else about but the victim and the accused. How are you able to state that with any certainty?
Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us.
Yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am.
He isn't quite in his element yet. Then we must hear their testimony.
The prosecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary.
But, wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen...
I am unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. It is no longer coming, Counsel.
Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to.
It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
I really like Gregson's bored look here. When he's like this, I like it. It's a good expression. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and collapsed on the pavement. From behind, you say?
That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition. Comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's been treating at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, it's indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events.
Luck is on your client's side, it seems. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. Hughes ran off, scouting belongings. Mr. Natsume's belongings? Think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. It's a bunch of books. 3 books. Yes, 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. Which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrusts the knife into the woman's back? I keep nearly flubbing words. I don't know if it sounds okay. That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Number of old books. He was on his way home from a bookshop. Hold it! The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. Shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. Little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. Wow. Seeing that happen just now kind of reminded me of Professor Layton puzzles. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important part that the inspector just made being... wait, what did he just say? Yeah, he didn't mention anything of the stock or anything. That's the location. The crucial detail in what you've just told the court, Inspector, is the location of the bookshop. I couldn't agree more. So, where is it exactly? Hey? Are you winding me up, Sunshine? I just explained that. I got the map out and everything. Used red blooming ink and drew the bloke's route home on for you. And I distinctly remember seeing you nod along, Counsel. Oh, yes, of course. I must have been so nervous I didn't take it in. The blunder of the day goes to you, my learned friend. No, not yet. The trial's only just begun, after all. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court record at this stage. Yes, miss. At once, miss. Sorry I made a mistake, miss. Inspector, continue with your testimony, please. Wait, does that mean that I messed up there? Should I have said something else? Let's... Well, first off, let's press this guy. Working out who the books belong to, we found the bloke to arrest him. You asked for the help of the famous detective Herlock Sholmes to locate the defendant, I believe. He's so done with everything. Stuff and nonsense. Sorry? That jack in office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his oar in whenever whether we ask him or not. But according to what I have here, Mr. Sholmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives. Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the sea must have done it, without my permission. Ugh. I tell them time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters, and follow your blooming instructions. I see. If that meddler gets his hands on any details, we'll all be reading it in Rance magazine next month. You can bet your last farthing that I'll be in there too, stripped of all my hard work on the case. Yes, Mr. Sholmes. No, Mr. Sholmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Sholmes? That's all the thanks I'll be getting. Inspector, if the man is proving detrimental to the Yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him. Oh! Wow, he had nothing but a crazy take as a reaction. It appears Inspector Gregson is lost for words. Yes, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. Anyway, the point is this. That little Japanese bloke's already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? If you're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. Alright, so I guess I gotta go after that statement again and do something else. Let me just save here for a second. Even though I don't think it cost me any penalties to select the wrong thing there. Maybe it'll be quicker to load if I go off on the wrong tangent. Wait, I need to press it. That's what I need to do. Alright, let's take in what he's saying here really closely. Second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings of this place here, Bourbon Books. So it's second-hand books. Okay. Bookshop's location, bookshops. Wait, is the name actually different? Bourbon Books. Oh, he got it from your books. Duh. Duh. I'm an idiot. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe. Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes. Let's press it again. So the shop is called Bourbon Books, is it? That's right. That's the closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodgings. And to get from there back to his room, he would have gone right past the very spot where the incident took place. If I could just confirm one point. Can we be sure that the defendant really did visit Bourbon Books on the day in question?
Well, we haven't actually confirmed it, no.
You haven't confirmed it? Why the devil not, Inspector?
Well, thing is, shopkeeper's gone on a trip, you see. Left the morning after the incident, to collect more stock, I'm told. So, we haven't been able to ask the bloke if the accused had visited his shop on the day in question or not.
Well, in that case, what did the defendant himself have to say about it?
No recollection.
What?
According to the statement he made at the time, the accused has no recollection of where he'd been.
Of course he doesn't.
Bloke clearly has his head in the clouds whenever he's walking about town. Times he just wanders in whatever bookshop he happens to be passing and rarely notices the name. I should say the man ought to learn to look where he's going at the very least.
So, it's just as I thought then. Is something the matter?
Inspector, you may continue with your testimony.
Alright. We know that the book store is not called Bourbon Books, it is called Your Books. What? That's the objection call? Ew! I didn't hear it until now. That's gross. Objection! If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson.
What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books.
And you found that in the accused's room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it.
Go on.
This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume?
Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
Objection!
Oh, that's so weak and awful. Objection! But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day of... which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
That sounds really frantic, actually.
Objection! Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Objection!
Objection! I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on whether this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said?
Absolutely. It could absolutely be right. Or it absolutely could be right.
Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. Turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Measham Street going east.
Alright, now we know where the Your Books is. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now... Oh.
My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. I also sound a bit drunk, I guess, to your future career in the circus.
You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. Holy shit. She's getting angry. I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from your books instead of bourbon books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victor was stabbed. What if he went the other way? It's about equidistant at that point.
Yes, thank you, Inspector. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. My gloves are very water-resistant. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. Ah! As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Soseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but even though whenever they give you this choice, you always say raise an objection. I don't think there's ever been a point where you shouldn't raise an objection when they allow you to raise an objection. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, counsel.
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places.
Duh.
If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection! Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around.
Is it route? How would the British pronounce it? Is it route or route? Route. Route. I think route.
On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection! But... Aha, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home.
I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He said he don't remember where he was or which route he took home.
I don't believe this.
I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... Who said it? Oh. Him. I agree with Lord Van Zeeks. Wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well, in that case I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Oh wow, they actually said...
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Oh, they all have voices. Holy shit, this isn't good. Wait, how's this supposed to go? Is this scripted? Or did I make a bad choice and this is just a really prolonged game over? Let's see.
It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous.
Wait, did he say something? Oh no, he was just ellipsing.
To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. Still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow.
Those are the eyes of Quarry not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago.
Call it antiquated if you will. But it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncle's refusal to throw in his alley. Not to throw in his alley. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Alright, this is the one where we pit their testimonies against each other.
Judicial findings. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity really admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
Man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I got work to be doing. Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in a green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. We want to force the trial to continue. Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them, at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord.
Ooh.
I just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Alright. Alright, for pity's sake, little Nipponese already admitted himself, but didn't he? Let's press it. Hold it! Excuse me, but aren't you...
Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago.
Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the sight of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you?
That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute.
Sorry?
Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals.
Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge.
Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around. The police have been badgering me non-stop.
If I could turn back the clock.
Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't.
Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. Or Mr. First now. Woman in green collapsed before his eyes, what can have only been the victim. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him.
Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly that funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit.
But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman.
Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes.
But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible?
Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds?
I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it.
I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could have possibly committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple.
Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
Oh my, you are too kind, my lord.
That went well. For her. Man would have gone around the house on the way back from the bookshop, not in winter. But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books.
Oh yes, like the Joe in the map you mean? What was it? Calabash Road or something?
Precisely.
Well, it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not.
Well, yes, that's true.
And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there?
Well, yes, that's true as well.
And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he?
Well, yes, that's annoyingly true.
Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible.
Well, yes. Why is all this true?
Well, really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road.
I'm supposed to be convincing you here.
I get a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why I might have gone the Calabash roadway, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would.
The reason why Soseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one.
Poor woman was attacked from behind. How dreadful.
Whatever is the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Gyakuten, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room?
The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand.
Just keeping up that charade. This is gonna be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean.
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I have no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right, although he's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who could commit a crime such as this? Or who would?
Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort.
What?
Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something.
Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough damning things already. Is that how they're, like, trying to tip me off to the fact that I won't be able to sway, like, those four, or those two? Because I'm supposed to sway four? I don't know. Alright. Can we just wrap this up? I got work to be doing. A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes.
Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so's my family's. Like you wouldn't understand, but a labourer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat. Neither do the wife and kids.
Oh, I see. That must be very hard.
Go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right and centre. After cheap labour to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard cycle from dawn till dusk, it is.
So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you?
That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was.
What? Another coincidence?
That's right, Meerschaum Street it was.
Meerschaum Street? On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please.
What's the boy in that? Can't we just get this business over with now?
Please, sir, it's important.
Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Meerschaum Street from dawn till dusk.
So if I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you were doing road maintenance that day.
That's right. Like I said, you get a lot of burst gas and water pipes underground in the middle of winter. It's the only time of year fellas like me can actually make a few bob. And I'm missing out today.
And when you say from dawn till dusk, Yeah, I'm not really liking the voice I settled on this guy. Well, it's all just variations of Cockney, isn't it? But when they're like lower class workers like that, they kind of have to be. So it's like, I don't know.
Well, the workhouse will be complete within the day, see? No coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening.
I wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on the street map the exact location of the works you were carrying out.
Give it here then. Let's have a look. Or let me have a look. Right, let's see then. Here we are, Mearsham Street. Yes, it was just here, like. It was a tidy dig, I can tell you. We had to get through all the drifts of snow that had frozen solid.
And at what sort of time did you finish the work?
Well, we started in the morning and we kinda finished before going 6, I'd say. The snow had stopped coming down, but it was long past dark for sure.
That means the road work was still going on when Miss Green was attacked at around 5 o'clock. Roadworks on Mearsham Street, huh? Your books. But yes, nice shop. But Bourbon Books, not worth a visit.
Hold it!
Hold it!
Sorry, fold it, you say? Fold what?
No. What I said was, hold it! What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often?
I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about.
And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about.
Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time?
Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road and I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road.
That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books.
Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant.
Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now.
It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. That sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. They're just racist. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. I read your mind again. Only been the victim. Man wouldn't have gone around the house on his way back from bookshop. Not in winter. Alright, so my first pitting, I believe I will pit this guy against one of the previous statements. So if I pit him against juror number 3...
Objection!
Objection! Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, Counsel. Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
What? I just want to get this done and dusted.
Well, juror number 3.
Oh, me, sir? What do you mean?
Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. I really like watching him pace. It feels very natural. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road.
Oh yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings.
Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh?
Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, but we see now that he had no choice.
Yes. Lord help us. Help us. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes. I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see his trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened.
I'm discovering that my Liverpool is pretty damn bad.
What about you, sir? Eh? Who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say.
The flames of justice. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. We might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal.
Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord.
I have to say not guilty at this point, so I can see where this trial goes from here.
What is he saying now?
Whether it's digging up roads or digging up the truth, you've got to see it through to the end, haven't you?
I slipped over that evening myself on Calabash Road.
Knocked myself clean out, you know.
Hold it!
Wait, we didn't press this last statement again, did we? And that was around 5 o'clock, you say, the same time as the victim was attacked.
I don't know anything about the girl who was stabbed, but my dinner's on the table in the same time every day.
And for the record, could you please identify the precise location of your fall?
Goodness, it was eons ago now. I'm not sure I can remember.
It was 3 days ago. Try dredging your memory, please.
Well, let me see. It was especially slippery around about. Ah, yes, I remember now. It was just on the corner, here.
What happened to you then? Were you alright?
Well, you don't get too many people down Calabash Road, you see. So there was no one around when I fell, no one around when I knocked myself out, no one around when I came to again, and no one around when I sneezed. So I picked myself up and went back to my nice warm house where my grandchildren were waiting for me.
Oh, how sweet.
A sad and lonely picture you paint, sir. You were fortunate not to have frozen to death.
Yes, how lucky that he wasn't more seriously injured. True. Sounds like it was very nearly another hospital admission. Or worse. Ah, yes, one more thing. Were you wearing that same green overcoat on the day in question?
Absolutely. It's the only coat I have. It took until this morning to dry out properly. Good job, too. I'd have nothing to wear here. So count your blessings, I say.
I suppose we should. This gentleman certainly has a close shave. Certainly had a close shave there. You've changed 2 of the jurors' minds, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, just 2 more to go. Deliver the finishing blow now. It's time to turn the tables here. Wish I knew how to do a Susato takedown. I suppose words will have to suffice for now.
Well.
Okay, I think I know what we're going for. Green. Well, I'm paranoid. I'm gonna save. Man, you really have to hit B a lot of times to get back to the game. Anyway, we're gonna pit you against him. Objection! Those 2 statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning.
A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel?
Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. My, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot. But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are all well aware of all this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Objection. Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean? That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6. Hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was a jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim.
Well, look at that.
My goodness me.
Sorry? You need a pee?
And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly, the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my.
You idiot old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the street these days, huh? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
Who said hold it? Was it her?
Hold it! My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you.
And I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well... Apparently I've gotten more drunk as time went on. I might as well just play him drunk from here on out.
Increasingly, everyone I voice is starting to sound like John Cleese to me. I don't like it.
Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes, 2. The nose, 4. So the nose have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
He's so frantic with it. It doesn't seem to fit his still stoic demeanor.
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. I will continue with this shtick for the entirety of the game.
Lord Van Zeeks?
It seems I must retract my earlier remark.
What do you mean?
I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh?
Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
Objection! I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth.
Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right. Took me the whole day and they paid me a measly 2pence for it. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no.
2 yards is a little less than 2 meters.
Less than 2 meters?
That's not much at all.
In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no.
What?
And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. We just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. They just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town.
Oh. Is that true? Is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Nutsmay walked down Briar Road.
Crushed in a single sentence.
And, old man... Old man, you can talk. You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? Oh, I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember?
How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw. But I would lay 1,000 to 1.
against you being able to prove it.
Ah. Order! Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself.
My lord,
If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer during the summation examination?
I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. Up, cloak off, here we go. Serious mode. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand.
Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
It's next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there are eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as his witnesses, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent. Now keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over.
Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Ouch. Huh. What kind of voice is this?
Constable Rowley Bates, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir. Ooh. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
Lots of falsetto today. What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we've celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired.
Hardly surprising.
Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually.
Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all.
I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. Oh, I read that completely wrong. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago.
But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals.
Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. Dude won't talk. And a man of slumber. Zing! On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Bate?
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rowley? Constable Rowley Bates, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir.
What a great witness he's going to be. I like how the gavel just stops that music abruptly. That's music that deserves to be stopped abruptly. I can't say words today.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day.
So I guess all the testimony is going to come from the girl.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed.
It's death knell, in fact. Because that alternative was never viable in the first place. One unfortunate bit chancing, and on your wedding anniversary too.
Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the law for that.
Gosh, the life of a London bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed. However, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon.
What do you mean by that?
My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt that it...
Jeez, I can't talk.
They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure.
Except that the man's so tired his wife has to do all the talking.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. Alright, so wedding anniversary, no time to change after work. No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Bate?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for your strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can you? Or can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct?
That's right, sir, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end.
What's that now?
My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. There's the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, And for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure.
So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. B puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps. And then, kindly describe what happened next.
Two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Two silhouettes. That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby?
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
What? Oh yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight and you can see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians.
Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Bate. Are you quite sure of what you've just said?
Yes, sir. As a cop who spends all day, every day, keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia's true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
You're still maintaining there is no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. Starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
One of them collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off.
Scattered something. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling?
Oh. What? Oh, yes, that's right. There was some old books.
I see. Old books.
Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them, all around where the victim lay on the pavement.
Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. Also, the fact that he's Japanese has nothing to do with it, you fucking assholes.
But we saw him. It was the man in the dock, without question, sir. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose, everything.
Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue.
Yes, sir.
Man, those animations are something. Ran straight over, went help for at the nearby police box. Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
What? Yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Bate to go. I was off duty by that point. But Bobby is never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Very laudable, Mr. Bates. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. Maybe I should read a little slower.
That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
It's the one the good doctor uses, the blue one. It travels through time. Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under was...
Wait.
So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it.
I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh please, you're making us blush, isn't he, darling?
Yes, sir. Well, Patricia said, sir.
Oh. Let's move on, shall we? Definitely Japanese, man. Because they saw him, they say. But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Well, yes, he was accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir.
As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Bates saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So, if that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no. What should we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here...
What are you trying to say? I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Why do I always seem to be so up against it?
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. No, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
That will do, Mrs. Bate.
No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fist down. Also, your racist remarks are far more offensive. But perhaps you'd like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Bate. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling?
Oh, excuse me.
I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene.
Hold it! Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I am a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Bate, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the title of the books you observed at the scene?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other, and What's It Yearnings, and there was, A Meal for Someone, and the last one was definitely The Thin Gummy something. You see?
Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Oh, well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure.
There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Hold on.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Anyone who accepts my Patricia will have me to answer to. I'll shoot you where you stand, I will.
Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? That's your entire testimony? What do you think? Well, I admit, hearing testimony. Alright. We added one more statement. Name of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. But he only had 2 or 3 books on his receipt. Is that enough? Let's see. Alright. I am going to present the book receipt again.
Objection.
Sounds good. So, you're saying that there were 4 books.
That's right. I remember all of them. The Picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Thingummy Something.
I'm sorry, Miss Beat. But there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4.
What?
This is a receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books.
Your books.
Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
Only 3? What? No, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 dirty old books.
Oh, really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books.
But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it. I saw them.
No, madam. I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was a defendant you saw, you could very well have been mistaken.
Oh no. Oh no, no!
Objection!
Oh, that's a good objection. That's a good time to use that level of franticness. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh.
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection.
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books.
Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print.
That print? You mean to say...
Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand.
I don't believe it. It's the 4th book.
As you will observe,
The fourth book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order! Order!
There, you see? You see? Look at that. Look, look, look.
Yes.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling?
Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir.
Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gaborel, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment.
Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless.
But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4.
There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the fourth book is that which is known in this photographic print. I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the fourth book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim.
The victim was holding her own book? I wonder, what became of that 4th book? I mean, the picture makes it look pretty singed.
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, Counsel. My pleasure, my lord.
Second photograph of the scene. And
The book.
the lion's pride discovered in the victim's hand. Wasn't the lion's pride part of the environment in was it Garadab's place?
The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. For now.
What?
You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. But futile. The spurious, longer route to the accused's lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see? Everything we've said is true.
Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat.
So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? What say you, jurors? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence.
Well, I don't know. I think we probably have more to hear about later on.
This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Alright, just in case. I'm gonna save right here. And if I find a better place to, like, start from, I will save again. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you do now?
Raise an objection. You always gotta raise it. I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zieks. It seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh. Man, what an asshole. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable.
Mr. Naruhodo.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mrs. Sato. Please.
Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? That's true. We haven't really looked at it. There is your picture of the book. Yeah, this is called Lion's Pride, but there's probably something inside it. Let's check it out.
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all. So it wouldn't be something I've heard... Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I have heard of a book by that name before. And very recently, too. It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
Let's see... I guess this burn mark's the only other place to investigate.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
A book. Recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Alright, now we know that the Lion's Pride is part of the description. That'll probably become useful later. Alright. I think I already read this. You believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think?
Wait a minute. Oh, she's still talking.
It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So I must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Which I think we already did, no? Yes, we did.
Yes, I understand. And you. Thank you, Mr. Sato. This is it. Sato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. I'm gonna save right here. I've been streaming for about 2 hours just now, and I'm starting to feel the sleepiness start creeping in. You might notice me slowing down a little bit as I press buttons already. So I think that if there's not a chapter break after this next, like, round of presenting and stuff, I might just need to call it mid-chapter, because yeah, I can feel myself fading. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence.
You know what? That's fine. It's close enough.
Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, my lord. It's, wait. I'm gonna save right here, just in a new slot, just in case this is a problem. Mr. Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence. Which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, counsel, precisely where is a vital clue to this case which this fourth book conceals?
I believe it is this.
Got it!
Yes, the vital clue, my lord, is here.
You may nod knowingly, counsel, but I'm afraid it shan't further your cause.
Oh, wasn't it? Sorry?
Your answer, my learned friend, is meaningless. Even to yourself, I suspect.
Mr. Naruhodo, you do realize that you can turn the evidence around and look at it from all angles, I suppose. Of course I do. This isn't the first time I've done this. I'm just surprised that you could overlook something so obviously out of the ordinary. Look, I'm sleepy. Yes, it's burnt on the back, but I thought maybe the familiar title of the book was also important. Leave me alone. I suppose it's your... Yes, your magnanimous nature. She took her time picking that word, didn't she? Perhaps I should take another look at the evidence. A little more detail this time. Alright, let's check this out. It's been badly damaged by fire here. So much so that you couldn't read it at all anymore. That's right, such a pity. And do you see the flaking edges of the burnt pages, Mr. Naruhodo? I think that's a sure sign that the damage occurred relatively recently. Yes, a book damaged in a recent fire. That definitely rings a bell.
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back? What do you... Good gracious. It's been burnt to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection! Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend?
Oh,
Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there's nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day, pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide?
charred book. We're back at the top. Charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tomb has suffered?
The shop that sold it, its owner, its content. Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well. I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So, tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
I'm gonna go ahead and save right here. Alright, who is on tap? We got Joan, we got John. It's one of them, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just reading these. It's one or the other. Does it matter who I say? Because she's here, I'm gonna say Joan.
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. Whoa! Full 360. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb.
The landlords?
And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know. But of all the people in London, of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today, is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Well, not for your lives, probably. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
Uh-oh. This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
Objection. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Gyakuten house.
Good Lord. What sort of incident, counsel?
A fire, my lord. I like this song.
Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The valley's furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title is the subject of this debate. Oh, dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Gyakuten was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Gyakuten even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir.
Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window, under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious. Are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. And there is no report of the Gyakutens' window pane being broken.
That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Gyakuten household. But it is not conceivable that the window was open at the time and
Not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Gyakut's wife?
I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough, says...
That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that a little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly. implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Too right.
Here we go.
How long have we sat here now, listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But, think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could have possibly stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with a mustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me. Sorry, what's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks?
In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Ah! It's always so jarring when he does this one.
If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time.
Ooh, that's a good line. He sure schooled me. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time?
In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
We're doing this again. Ah? But why?
Thank you for that unambiguous response.
That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mia? No, sorry. Mrs. Sato? Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting... Of course, the defense has a right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right to a summation examination.
You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve.
I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. There's no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Oh, thank God. An actual chapter break. Yay, I reached the end of the chapter before I passed out. Woo! Boy, am I tired. Save complete. Oh, shit. I did not mean to just hit back again. No, 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 no. Gavel. Alright, we'll start from here. I'm just gonna let the Switch sleep. I'm probably not gonna do anything. Well, yeah, I can also load from my save, of course. That's probably what I'll do instead. Yeah, I'll just do that. Anyway. I guess that's it for today. And today's stream. Thank you for watching, everybody. I seem to be doing okay by just going for one chapter each time, because it seems that they're all about 2 to 3 hours, which is about a good, decent length for a weekday or weeknight stream, at least for my purposes. So that's cool. I'll probably keep this up, and I will maybe try to stream again, perhaps Wednesday or Thursday. It'll be somewhere between Wednesday through Friday, and if I'm lucky, multiple days. So if I'm really, really lucky, maybe I'll even get through the entire rest of the game by the end of the next weekend. I don't know. I'm thinking too far ahead. Well, we'll get there when we get there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the playthrough, thank you so much for all the time you're spending watching it. If you are watching a VOD, thank you for watching the VOD and everything else about it. I'm tired and delirious, so I will say goodnight now. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Goodbye. Bon nuit.